What is going on, everyone? My name is Boit, and I'm back with some more Age of Mythology. The Titans action spawning in the bottom of the map in the green color, playing as Zeus. His name is Player. His partners today in the blue color, playing as Loki. His name is Squash. And finally rounding out this team in the purple color, playing as Uranus. His name is GMs. Together, they make the team Fade2. I'm a bit surprised to see that Loki here. We'll see if it's going to work. We'll talk about it a little bit in the moment here. On the other side of the map, in the yellow color, playing as Uranus, his name is Moore. In the middle of the map, also playing as Loki, his name is Ulysses. And finally, shaping out this team here in the red color, playing as Ra, his name is Chemo. And together, they make Alliance. So let's talk a little bit about the Loki pick here. I'm surprised to see this. I am genuinely surprised to see Loki on Alfheim. I feel like Loki, strong team game god, but the other S tier gods for team games just function so much better on Alfheim, I would have thought, just because of the lack of hunt. You can see that, there's some elk here, there's a handful of deer here, there's a handful of caribou, but that's all. Maybe you can get a whole bunch of cows and be okay, but all of the bonkers strong Loki strats don't really work as far as I'm concerned. So we'll see how it's all going to go. Not only that, we also have a Ra here in combination with the Loki. So what does that mean? If Chemo goes Ra and the Loki goes Loki, the Ra is wanting to boom, the Loki is wanting to be aggressive. You've got to make that compromise with aggression and raiding and booming as the Ra to make sure you meet up with the Loki and the Loki doesn't just straight up lose. Oftentimes when there is a Ra on one side and there is no Ra on the other side, the only real possible way that the Ra can help fast enough is to do timing attacks onto the enemy Norse player. And it can work really, really well. Oftentimes two people die. So your Loki dies, their Loki dies. That's often the case. So we'll see if that's actually going to happen. Alternatively, because both Lokis are in the pocket, sometimes things don't go that well for either the doublers or whatever, and everything's kind of fine, and you just get the Ra being really unstoppable. Beyond all of this, we do have a Zeus here. Now, Zeus on Alfheim, a little bit scary to pick here. Normally, the kind of strongest strategy we've been seeing by Zeus of late, especially when the opponents can have the Ra pick, is to go mass hoplites and make that work. And that's not really going to be possible on a low hunt map like Alfheim. You're going to have the wood to make farms, and you're not going to have the hunt really to produce the mass hoplites you want to run around the map and support the Loki, support the Uranus. So we'll see what players' options are going to be here. If he's probably not going to choose to go for centaurs on Alfheim, especially with Loki and Ra. The only real player you're going to be able to harass is kind of the Uranus, and even then it's going to be a little bit lackluster. So we're probably not going to see that. So at the very most, we'll see player go for mass town centers here and boom. And that's going to allow the Loki players to function as well as they want. So we'll see how things are all going to go. We do see that Chemo has picked up the Anvil of Hephaestus. This is the negative 10% food, wood, gold cost on your armories, making your armory upgrades cheaper. Really, really good relic. There's a couple other relics on the map over here. We've got the toothed arrows, extra archer damage. We've got the bow of Artemis, cheaper archers. We've actually got Squash building forward here. It's interesting to see that here, considering everything that's going on, and we're actually seeing player go for a very, very delayed advance time. So we'll see exactly how that's going to shape up here. Sometimes you can actually do not sometimes, you can do a 5-15 advance with Zeus into an immediate 3 town center grab or 2 town center grab. So you go up to 3 town center with that. But that doesn't look like that's what player's doing at all. He's just going Athena, and he's going to try and make that work as best as he can with the delayed advance time. Only 3 villages on gold. So this is indicating to me that player wants to do some sort of aggression here. Now, there is that relic that is getting dropped off over here for GMs. Going to have the bow of Artemis. Cheaper Terma is always going to be really, really nice. So we'll see how that's going to go as Squash is now moving forward into this location here. We are seeing the oracles for GMs going to be trying to harass Ulysses. Ulysses has lost the tower on this gold mine. That's actually really, really big. as GMs has managed to pick that off, because this gold mine is naked now. And if we take a quick look at the map, there is a gold mine back here, but Ulysses doesn't know about it. So we'll see if that's gonna matter or not. As the troll coming through, we see the walls. It's just such an this is just a little bit much from Chemo. He built a really big wall here. He's going to be utilizing shifting sands to try and relieve some pressure off of Ulysses, but he's also, it also looks like Chemo is going for fast 2 town center. He's got 10 villages on wood at this point, as he's chucking all of the buildings up. He's onto his berries over here, as all the units are starting to pressure in onto this position. We've got more going for mass Terma at this point. Well, I don't know if that's going to work out all too well for him, but we'll see how it's all going to go, as GMs is starting to move in to Ulysses' territory. Squash is making his way in there as well, and we see Player is going for a very heavy hoplite strategy here, as the Jason moving in, the archery range coming in, and this is going to be fun, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a triple rush here from one of the best teams in Age Mythology team game history, sniping off one Hearser already. We do have more sitting back in here. This is an attempt to punish the Ra pick, and Chemo is simply just playing standard, throwing his town center down, saying, all right, town center is fine. Let's just see how this is going to work. The wall segments are in here, but it looks like the Minotaur and the Hoplite are going to get in here, no problems. And Ulysses is going to have some troubles here. Ulysses needs to not go Hall of Thanes here, and he needs to get Throwing Axeman out. Needs to throw another Longhouse down and go Throwing Axeman Hearser and just sit in his base. You do not need the speed. You just need to be defensive here. We'll see how it's all going to go as the units popping around here. We do see the Shockwave onto this position. That's 1, 2, 3 dead villagers. Beautiful play here by GMs, as he's going to attempt to snipe down some of Moore's. Term a nice micro there by Moore. He's always going to be on top of that there, as GMs is a little bit caught out as Player. He's finally starting to move in onto this position here, trying to take down the temple here to slow down Ulysses, but Ulysses is spending that 300 wood right now in this temple. It's going to get denied. Going to be no Hall of Thanes, but Hall of Thanes is not necessary here for Ulysses. He needs units at this point, as the relics. Boots of Kick Everything is here as well, so that's even more of an excuse to to delay Hall of Thanes a little bit, as another tower getting taken down. The rain gets dropped there by Chemo, as he is just trying his darnest to get to the next age as slow as he possibly can. Actually, he's got like nearly 18 farms. He's like, Ulysses, I literally don't care that you're being tripled right now by a Zeus, by a Loki, and by an Uranus here. We're just gonna, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. As the finals, Ulysses tower, he's trying to get watchtowers in, but he's got no towers remaining. He's got no towers ready. He's going to get his watchtowers back. The unit's getting pulled back here as Ulysses pushing in onto this, as Player needs to pull back ever so slightly. More units coming in for Player. He has lost a fair few, as Moore's going to turn around, try and snipe down some, or not Moore. Yes, Moore's going to turn around, try and snipe down some of these Loki Hearser of Squash, as Squash pushing this one back. We are seeing some raids coming in here by Moore, but looks like GMs has dealt with that really nicely thus far, as Squash is still trying to pick these units off. We do see Chemo's Pharaoh has made its way over here for some reason. It is getting it's very much out of position here. There is a world where you can shifting sands over here and then throw the Migdol stronghold down inside of this base, but it's very risky because there's so many units here. The Minotaur does get sniped down there by the Pharaoh. It's in a good, nice defensive position, as we do see the shifting sands over onto this position, but the Odysseus does not get caught here, as GMs is in on this position with Player. We're going to see that that Odysseus is actually taking a lot of damage now by the town center, as that does get dealt with. It looks like the Pharaoh is just about to get picked off. No, it's still sitting there alive, as Player is, where is he? He's on this location over here trying to snipe down some of those axemen. We see the Toxotes here. They can go after those villages very easily, but the throwing axemen are the priority for the time being, as Player is doing his best to push in here with this Athena kind of rush. Taking down a couple of dwarves here is going to be a big help, as 2 do fall. We do have the axemen coming in. We see the restoration over onto this location, going to be healing those Loki Hearser back up, as Ulysses has to pull back into his hometown center here. as the Toxotes able to take down those Axemen very, very easily. We still haven't seen Chemo going to the next age. Chemo has decided he has to stick in the Classical Age. A very, very slow Classical Age assistance here from Chemo after going for those 2 town centers. I would have thought he would have gone Mythic, Heroic Age by now, but not there just yet. The Herser's still getting picked off as those Toxotes are just happily sitting on this gold mine, doing crazy amounts of damage over here. But more is Mass Terma. He's got a huge advantage right now in this game. GMs has lost a lot of Terma, it would seem, as now we're also going to start seeing some Murmillo coming out for more, as he is playing this game incredibly well and super good micro at this point. Squash, however, he's still got nearly all of his Herser remaining at this point, so we'll see how things are going to go. There is no restoration remaining here for player, as the fight looks like it's going to start becoming a little bit difficult to handle. Nice micro here from player here. This Ulysses Pegasus flying on top of those Toxotes can be incredibly obnoxious. 140 HP, 50% pierce armor can be a big tanking thing there, as the Axeman trying to push through. Those Toxotes a little bit out of position here, as it seems like F2 need to retreat here, as the Herser coming through, going to try and take down some of those Oranos Terma. It's a good fight to have there with those Loki Herser, as Squash is trying to get as much value out of this as he possibly can. GMs comes in, going to snipe a couple of Terma there as well, as the units pushing in here. We've got so many throwing Axemen here for Ulysses, as he's finally been forced into this decision to go for the throwing Axemen, and it's going to be working out for him really, really nicely as Chemo pulls back. He's kind of getting out of position just a little bit, but the Axemen have dealt a good amount of damage to the Hoplites and the Herser thus far, as GM's pushing in more a little bit out of position. He's picking off some straggler units over here, as F2 making a slight push in, but it's still very, very close in this game. The problem for F2 is that Chemo is 2 town centers, and that's just going to mean that Chemo is going to slowly but surely get into the advantage here, as he's going to be pumping those villages non-stop. He's got tons of farms here, throwing granaries down. He's going to be in a really, really good position. We do see the healing spring onto this location. That's going to be helping out F2's push just ever so slightly. Chemo out of position just a little bit here with his army pulling back, but he really could be turning around and taking these fights if Ulysses could be a little bit more on the same page, as the units here pulling back and going forward in conversing patterns here. We'll see if this is going to be able to be held. Moore's getting himself his second town center. Moore is in a completely fine position. His economy hasn't been touched at all, though too GM's economy hasn't been touched at all. GM's really should be on a second town center as well at this point. So too could player consider going for a second town center. Normally in these situations where you go 1 town center Zeus, the best option is to go for a fast Mythic off of the 1 town center. But if there's no food on the map, you have to farm. It's too hard to make that work. So going for the town centers is really the right play here, as Squash comes through. Beautiful, beautiful surround there by Squash. He's going to be pushing these units back beautifully, getting some really, really good damage done onto Chemo here, as Ulysses is, I would say, nowhere to be found, but he is pushing it on the back. But now Ulysses is out of position, as the town center on the front for Squash is going up. We're starting to see more coming over now with his army, trying to find something to do. We see Chemo really out of position onto this gold mine, as this is going to be a really, really nice position for Team Fade2 to be attacking here. As the Axemen come through, you've got to be careful not to stay here for all too long. There are no upgrades on these villages for Chemo, as he needs to get his army over here. We see GMs coming over here as well as player in onto this position. That's going to be a lot of dead villages, and this is exactly what F2 needs. But Chemo is 3 town centers now, so even if every single one of these villages falls for Chemo, Chemo is still going to have a villager advantage over F2. But the army going down is going to be the big problem here, it would seem, as Moore does come through, does deny this town center for the time being. All the villagers on this gold mine have fallen. The Toxotes is going to be able to snipe down all of those Axemen incredibly quick here. So beautiful play here from F2, but Chemo is way ahead at this point, even after all is said and done. We are still seeing cheeky little raids here from Maul, just looking for some harassment with his units while he's trying to micro everything else. This town center is not going to be going up anytime soon. We see the Terma looking for some raids onto Ulysses, but Ulysses is kind of fine here at this point. He's still not... Wait, the relics? They left? How do you leave Boots of Kick Everything there if you are squashed? That's a big mistake from Team Fade 2 as well. They killed the temple, but they didn't take the relic. And neither player have. They're just leaving it there, as it looks like player going to be retreating away. There's no units left over here. Squash is actually hurting quite severely now. He's trying to throw down his farms as best as he can, but he's going to be very low on the Hersur account now after all is said and done. And Chemo is just happily spamming. And what this essentially means for Chemo is that he's going to be able to hit the heroic age at like 15 minutes or 15:30 ish, and he's going to be able to hit the mythic age straight after that, and everyone else is going to be stuck in the classical age. He's so far in front right now, as Squash going to be losing this longhouse, losing all of his houses on the front. We're going to be seeing the temple coming back up for Ulysses. He's going to grab his relic. He's going to be in a fine position, though. He's only got a handful of farms. He does have his second town center coming up, as well as an armory over here, mining this gold mine over here. Tons of villagers on wood, completely fine in this position. He does have to sort his economy out a little bit, as now players going, well, we're going to have to put some pressure onto Moore here as the hoplites coming in, and they might be able to catch this town center out that's going through Thea. We see the shockwave already getting dropped over here, trying to slow this down ever so slightly. We've got the Hersur onto Moore's villagers at this point, going to be picking off 2 citizen here. Beautiful play there by Squash while Moore is distracted by this attack, as we are seeing the villagers attempting to repair this one up. 92%, 93%. We see the Masons coming through just barely there, and it looks like Thea is just barely going to be getting through there for Moore. Nice shockwave, nice repairing, nice hold there for Moore, not getting punished too hard for putting the Thea through on that town center. So Moore gets to the heroic age. He's going to be on one town center. He's throwing the marker down, probably going to go through Helios. You have to expect, though, at this point in the game, with everything going the way it's happened, Tartarian Gate might be a decent option here at this point, as we are seeing the town center is now up for player. The third town center coming up as well. Hathor is in for Chemo. He's going to be going through Mythic Age very, very soon here. If we actually take a quick look at Chemo's resources, he's got heaps of resources there in the bank, so he can choose to go through Horus. He can choose to go through Osiris. Doesn't really matter. A tornado onto Squash's town center would be incredibly strong at this point for Team Alliance. As Squash retreating back with GMs, it looks like players' army a little bit out of position here. He's trying to retreat the Toxotes away without losing too many of them, as Moore is making a very, very... He is running, and he's actually found some caribou here, so he can sit there and eat those for the time being. As players like, where did they go? I don't know. As Moore trying to push through over here as best as he can. Hecate coming through now for Moore very, very quickly. Big shockwave coming in for onto Ulysses, throwing action. We're going to be holding this position just a little bit, but now we see, look at this, the raids coming through for Chemo. Chemo is choosing Osiris, which personally I don't like. I think that Horus would have been better here, because he's got all the axemen, can go straight in onto Horus axemen and essentially force the stables out for player, but then you just kind of ignore that a little bit. And there's a big locust getting dropped in onto Squash's villages here. No villages really going down, as every 2 villages going down here as the Axeman searching around for some more raids onto this position. We are seeing the raids now hitting GMs. He's finally going to start losing some villagers over here. Nice play from Moore. GM's not paying attention there at this point, as the Toxotes still searching for where these villagers went. But we do see a sky passage on this position coming through for Moore. I love that play from Moore, as everything is coming through here for Ulysses. He's got himself 3 town centers, pushing in onto the forward base of player. Going to be dealing with that one nicely here, as we see the raids coming through for player, trying to figure out something to do. Villagers getting taken down. Squash has got tons of idle villagers here right now, as Chemo is raiding this really hard, but this is allowing player to boom very, very nicely. Apollo is on the way. That's going to be a big underworld chance for player here, as all is going to be coming through. The units here for Squash kind of need to retreat back. All he needs to do is send through a handful of battle ball back to deal with this kind of raid, but we are seeing GMs dealing with that nicely. But the problem player now that F2 needs to deal with is going to be Moore. Moore is Mythic Age at this point. We see the flaming weapons coming through for Ulysses onto this point here. I imagine Squash is going to be casting his own flaming weapons here very, very shortly. It doesn't look like it's happening just yet. Squash is just going to be retreating back here. The Mythic Age is through for Chemo. He's making some siege towers. He's got the Son of Osiris here. I imagine Catapult are going to be coming out straight away, break through that gate. These units are mostly going to get picked off over here. Villagers getting taken down on this position. Squash retreating back. Going to look for something else to take down this house here getting destroyed. We are seeing some raids now onto this position as player dropping his underworld onto this position, effectively allowing Chemo to do whatever he wants in this game. The disrespect for the Ra here that Fade2 has shown may come back to bite them as this game is continuing. But that being said, Moore's got only one town center at the moment. He's building a second one, and killing a whole bunch of villages here is really going to slow Moore down. So this is going to be a huge raid. But while this is all going down, we see the siege towers, the catapult, going to be taking this town center down. The Fade 2's squash dropping his flaming weapons onto this position, as well as the town center is going to go down before Architects gets through here. Moore is going to be having next to no villages remaining after this push is coming through, but player is going to be losing his town center nearly 100%. If player had a look at that, look at the lightning hitting everything there as the siege tower is coming through. But now Squash and effectively Squash and player can push back through this underworld and come and defend this position, because the underworld is sitting right here. That Son of Osiris is looking a little bit out of position, but now the mercenary cavalry pushing through here as Chemo can now grab this town center for himself. GM's now pushing forward. He's going to be taking down the sky passage that is here as Moore's destroyers are getting taken down. Moore's entire base getting killed here, but Ulysses is now in as he's got those throwing axe and heavy throwing axe from dealing with all of Squash's Hersa here as he has to pull back. We see the villagers have snuck in onto this location over here, going to be dropping a mining camp onto that position as now the town center is coming through, and now we have effectively a base race of some sort as Chemo is going to be able to kill off player very, very fast, and you have to imagine that Fade2 is going to be able to kill off Moore incredibly quickly as well. But the question is going to be, after Moore is dead and player is dead, who can deal with Chemo? Because the answer is not going to be Squash, as the Tartarian gate gets dropped inside of Squash's base. This is going to do so much damage, but Squash is already here with a handful of Hersa. The Hersa are going to get free favor from the Tartarian spawns. The Battle Boar is going to be able to deal with the Tartarian gate. Tyr is coming through for Ulysses. That's going to be a really, really big help for Ulysses as this game is going on. Continuing along, and you can see that after all the doubling is said and done, or the tripling is said and done from the early game, Ulysses is 3 town centers, ladies and gentlemen, nearly full score, top scorer in this game. He has recovered completely, and Moore is the one who is struggling. He's losing citizen left, right, and center. If we take a quick look at Moore's villager count right now, he's got 8 villages remaining, and this 2 villages are going to be falling. That's really, really bad news for Moore. But the town center falling right now. We see the vortex coming in onto this position as the rock picks up this location. The Stymphalian birds taking down the rock as the Son of Osiris is going to be retreating back onto this position. We see the Hersa trying to get in on here. They're going to be focusing down the Patsukos first. The catapult pushing back. The siege towers have taken down that town center there, but the push here from Chemo is finally going to be getting slowed just a little bit. That Son of Osiris very, very out of position here, but Ulysses is going to be dropping the Fimble Winter right now as the Son of Osiris has gotten back. You're going to be able to hold this for the time being. The siege towers have taken down a whole bunch of players. Main home base player going to be hurting a lot here at this point as the Battle Boar on this position getting taken down by Ulysses. These villagers that are kind of sneaking in onto this position need to retreat away from their player. Does notice that nicely, but things are looking very, very difficult for him. He has managed to get to the Mythic Age through Hephaestus. Going to be able to get himself out the Bellerophon to defend here as the siege tower is taking down his military buildings nicely, but we'll see if player can hold on here in this game. We've got some some Squash villagers moving over here as the Battle Boar starting to push in onto GM's town center, but there is a Stymphalian bird here to hold on to this town center nicely. As this game is continuing on, we're still getting some raids coming through for Squash, looking for some villagers over here. There is potential for a vortex onto that location, but no, just going to be utilizing the Nidhogg there. Nice play by Squash as he's trying to slow Ulysses down as much as he possibly can. This Son of Osiris is still going to be the most difficult thing to deal with, but the Bellerophon is out, and the Bellerophon has got a mission here, and the mission is jump onto the Son of Osiris, kill the Son of Osiris. There's a handful of Hersa on the back here as well that could potentially drop a ghost building or something in onto this position here as the Son of Osiris going to go down, bolt onto the Son of Osiris, 25 HP remaining, and that's going to be a dead Son of Osiris. Nice play there by player, holding onto that bolt to the very last moment. That is the way to use Bolt if you're playing as Zeus against an Son of Osiris. They're beautiful play by player, but he is still one town center here. We do see that Moore has got his own town center back. Chemo and Ulysses are huge. Chemo's economy is gigantic here, and Chemo can feed Moore into this game. Moore has got access to a good amount of technology, so he doesn't actually need resources for technology. He just needs resources for units here, and he's going for raids now onto Squash, hitting that beautifully on that position over there. Player's going to be able to grab his town center now, and we're going to be heading into somewhat of a bizarre late game at this point, as Ulysses has been able to push in onto GM's base here, taking down the town center, taking everything down here. He's got a huge advantage moving forward now. GM's does have access to the Heavy Fanatic. That's going to be a really, really big unit choice here to deal with the Norse units, but he needs to get enough out here to hold. He's only sitting at 2 town centers. Ulysses at 3 town centers, grabbing this gold mine on the front. Squash going for a small raid onto this gold mine here. Going to be getting a little bit of damage done. We see the Colossus trying to take down this town center. The Battle Board taking this one down as well. The Myrmidon pushing in here for player. Going to be a big help, as the town center looks like it will inevitably be getting taken down, as Chemo doesn't have enough stuff over here. He's got tons of catapults here, but those catapults are relatively useless at this point. You can use the catapult to take down the Heliopoli, I guess, but I don't think that Chemo's really microing that all too well, as the town center does end up falling. The Chariot Archers will be relatively holding here as this game is continuing. Player needs to get out his Bellerophon really to deal with all of that. Meanwhile, the push here onto this location, dealing some really big damage. We see Ulysses converting Ulfsark at this point. He doesn't have any of the special upgrades just yet here, as he's going to attempt to hold onto this position while pushing through here. While the town center is coming up, we see GM's really struggling to hold here, but Moore is relatively out of this game here. He's going for a raid onto this position, getting his town center back over here, and he is slowly making his way back into being relevant in this game. And really, the problem is that Chemo is gigantic, and F2 do not have a gigantic player themselves. And even though Moore is basically dead, he's going to be able to be fine here in this game. We are seeing some really sneaky play here from player. He's going to have a side build coming up. He's going to be able to get himself those Colossus raids coming down, and he doesn't really need to get his town center back against Chemo. He just needs to try and remove Moore from the game and try and get some harass onto Ulysses to allow Squash and GMs to do what Squash and GMs need to do here, as we see a bit of a shockwave coming in as Squash is trying to push through Ulysses' undefended location here. The Fire Giant are in here, but those Hearse are going to do a lot of damage to the Stymphalian birds as well. We're doing a ton of damage here to take down those Fire Giants. They're really, really good at this. Nice raids here by Squash coming through as the Stymphalian birds do fall, but it looks like Ulysses is completely fine in this position, as now Chemo is back. He's got his town center back. His catapults that were useless 2 seconds ago, able to kill off his opponent's town center here. Chemo planning for the future. Both Pharaohs on the front to pump out these towers incredibly fast. And player, he needs to make this side build work now, but he doesn't have the resources to do so. He's in complete defensive mode here, and that's never going to work against a big Ra like Chemo at this point, as the catapult take everything down so absurdly fast. We see the vortex coming through for Chemo, for GMs onto Chemo here. We'll see if this is going to be enough to hold here. GMs is somewhat strong here, but his army, it's just Arcus. It's just Arcus versus Axeman, or Arcus Murmillo versus Axeman Chariot Archers. It seems like to me, this is going to be more than enough for Chemo to deal with, and Chemo's also got Mercenary pumping in onto this location. Chemo's trade route is really big as well, as the town center over here is up now for Ulysses. Ulysses is 5 town centers at this point. He is absolutely gigantic. Squash is pushed back. GMs is pushed back. Player is losing his main base, and Fade2, they need to figure out something to do here, but I don't think that there is anything left here, as Squash decides to call it. GMs taps out. Player taps out. That is the game. What an insane hold here from Alliance, able to hold that 3v1, or I guess it was a 3v2. Moore managing to do everything he needed in that early game to get himself ahead, and then the big push through onto Moore, able to basically erase Moore from the map, but not completely. But then after that, it didn't even matter, because Chemo was so gigantic, being 3 town centers for so long in this game. I imagine Chemo would have attributed tons of resources, 6,000, nearly 6,000 resources attributed here from Chemo. If you check out this all resources tab, this is the story of Alliance in this game versus Fade2. It was that Fade2 just could not keep up economically, as Chemo had 3 town centers, More had tons of resources, and when More was wiped out, Ulysses ended up getting all the resources in. Civilian unit count will tell the story just as well. As you can see at the peak here, 186 to 131 villages for a team stat is gigantic. Military units, on the other hand, yeah, you can see it was just kind of going up and down, up and down, up and down. There was a slight advantage here for F2 at this point, but they couldn't make that work, as all those units just get annihilated by the sheer technological advantage that Alliance had here. You can see this unit killed Lost Tab as well. Tells the story nicely, with Ulysses really managing his army nicely. Chemo, I mean, 250 military unit count, but he's got like infinite resources. Just an insanely good game there. If you guys enjoyed this one, please consider hitting the follow on the Twitch. If you're on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you guys in the next game.